All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to our election guide for property owners. Thank you guys so much for coming. If you have any questions anytime, please absolutely feel free to ask questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom. Also, you can raise your hand and we can call on you if you're not muted, and we'll be able to do that as well. Let me see. Yeah, I think we're all set. Let me turn our music off and let us get started. So thank you guys again so much for joining us at The Collective. We are so passionate about doing everything we can to help homeowners. Our main mission at our office is to help homeowners build wealth through real estate. And understanding what's happening legislatively is extremely important to make sure that that happens. So, you know, us as an office, we're always out there fighting for you. We travel to Sacramento every year. I'm going to DC every year, lobbying and helping to make sure that we're doing everything we can to protect homeownership. So this year in California, there's 3 propositions that are coming up on the ballot that will absolutely affect homeownership, and we want you to make sure that you are aware of these so you can make your educated decisions, and we'll let you know where we stand on them, and hopefully you will agree. But before we get started, also we have a couple really great guests today. We have Christy Hayek, who's here from California Association of Realtors, who's going to give us all kinds of great information on Prop 19. It was actually a proposition that was brought up and written by CAR, the California Association of Realtors. So before we get to her and the propositions, I would like to introduce a good friend of mine, Mr. Larry Block. So any of you who are out there who live in West Hollywood, you'll know him. He's a business owner, he's a realtor, he has a great store in the middle of West Hollywood and Santa Monica Boulevard. He's a realtor at our office as well, and he's running for West Hollywood City Council. So Larry is one of the 2 out of the 9 candidates who was endorsed by the Greater Los Angeles Association of Realtors. The Greater LA Association of Realtors, like us, does everything we can to protect homeownership. So we had a very, very thorough interview with Larry and all other candidates running for West Hollywood City Council. And the Public Policy Committee, as well as the Board of Directors, agreed to endorse 2 candidates who were pro-homeownership, and Larry happens to be one of them. So Larry, if you want to introduce yourself and give a few words to us, I'm so happy to have you here.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Hi, everybody. Anthony, thank you for the introduction. It's been an honor to actually move into your office during this election. The first time I'd seen Anthony in a few years was at the GLAR endorsement meeting. There are 2 props that I'm going to talk about today. One is Prop 15, and Prop 15 has to do with the split roll tax on commercial real estate. I'm a commercial property renter with my store Block Party on Santa Monica Boulevard, and I'm always concerned about the triple net and how it affects me. So and the way, I hope you know, but commercial tenants usually sign a triple net lease, meaning the tenants will pay their share of the property taxes and common area maintenance over a 5 or 10 or a 15 or a 20-year period. So in this particular proposition, if this passes and certain buildings are reevaluated to their current property tax rate, those taxes are passed down to the tenants, and they are not paid by the landlords. And it's really a killer for small business. So there's 2 things that I would say. If you're a commercial real estate agent, you can ask to sign a gross lease. And I've anticipated this actually. My lease was a gross lease. This prop I speak for is to speak for my neighbors, but I've been lucky and I'm in a gross lease. So it doesn't actually affect me, but it does affect all my neighbors. So you can ask your clients to go into a gross lease, and that way the property taxes as they change will not be affected. The other prop we're going to talk about is Prop 21. West Hollywood is notorious for its rent control, and the City Council already voted yes to approve rent control on single-family homes and condos, and to recommend that approval for Prop 21. And this is a killer for property values. This will kill real estate investment into our city because we won't have a chance for upside. It will cause landlords or people with investment property to not put less money into the property and eventually wind up selling it and tearing it down. And it doesn't encourage the free market. So I say, I have a card, protect your block. And I will vote against rent control on single family homes, on condos in West Hollywood. And a lot of things start here and move out. So it's just as important in your community, wherever you are, to put a stop to Prop 21 before it really affects our market. Real estate values will be impacted, sales and resales and investment will be hampered, and it will affect all of our livelihoods, and it's just not good for the overall real estate market. And if you have any friends in West Hollywood, please log on to WEHO2020.com. Please visit my website and ask any questions. All donations are accepted. And thank you very, very much for your support, Anthony, and for the GLAR support. I'm looking forward to getting elected and building home ownership within West Hollywood.
Awesome. Thank you, Larry, for being here. Larry, again, he was one of the only two candidates who was against Prop 21 and Prop 15, which we're going to talk about in detail today. So thank you for being here and being a proud supporter of homeownership, and wish you all the best of luck.
I want to thank you for your time. I have to go to another Zoom meeting, so I'm going to leave shortly after this, and just want to say goodbye right now and thank you all.
All right. Thanks, Larry. Okay, well, let's get right into the propositions. We're going to start with two propositions that we're urging you to vote no on, and I'm going to talk about that. Then we'll get into the more exciting news on Prop 19, and which would be a yes vote, hopefully, with our guest, Christy. So let's see. All right. Are you guys all seeing the full screen share that I have up, I think? Are you seeing that, Christy, the screen share? Okay, perfect. All right, well, let's get started. So first one we're going to talk about is Prop 19. Prop 19 is, I'm sorry, I'm just skipping ahead of myself. We're going to first talk about Prop 15, no on the property tax hike. This initiative has had a lot of press and a lot of buzz for the last year, wondering, is it coming on the ballot? Is it not? Well, it actually is coming onto the ballot. When you see it on your ballot, this is what it will say. It's going to say increases funding sources for public schools, community colleges, and local government services by changing tax assessment of commercial and industrial properties. Okay, it doesn't sound too bad. It sounds like it's maybe a good thing, but let's look a little bit further into this. So to understand Prop 15, as a reminder, this all started back in 1978 with the beginning of Prop 13. So in 1978, there was actually an amendment to our Constitution in California that was passed by the initiative process, which was Proposition 13. What this did was, it was a proposition that limited property tax increases, restricted annual increases of assessed value of real property to an inflation factor not to exceed 2% per year. So when you're purchasing a property, whether it's commercial, residential, whatever it is, you pay a set property tax rate, right? And that property tax rate, we all know, just goes up little by little every year. It can't exceed the 2% rate. Well, the only time that this can be reassessed is if you have a change in ownership, or you completely, build a new construction on your property, then it will be reassessed. So these rules, like I said, apply to real estate, residential, commercial, everything, whether you're an individual owner or a corporation. Now, Prop 13 was super, super popular, got a lot of publicity back then, and now Prop 15, which we're talking about today, is also getting tons of publicity, and it's going to be a really interesting thing to watch. So the proponent's argument is, it closes property tax loopholes benefiting wealthy corporations. It requires non-residential commercial properties to be assessed based on their actual fair market value. It exempts all residential properties maintaining full Prop 13 protections. Well, we'll talk about how that affects some residential units. It exempts businesses operating out of a home and businesses owning $3 million or less of non-residential commercial property from reassessment. That $3 million number is something that's going to be important to pay attention to, and we'll review that. Increase funding for schools, community college, and give local communities resources so essential services and frontline workers can respond to current challenges. Okay, now why would we be against this, and how does it affect property owners? Here's the opponent's arguments, and especially the one in red. If this is enacted, it's going to be the largest annual property tax increase in California history. It will repeal taxpayer protections in Prop 13, which have kept property taxes affordable by capping property taxes and limiting increases monthly. Now, what I have highlighted here, this imposes a reassessment of multifamily properties valued over $3 million. So if you own a commercial property of 5 units or more, and it's valued at $3 million or more, your property taxes will be reassessed. Here in Los Angeles, pretty much every property that's 5 units or more is going to be having to be reassessed if it's over $3 million value. So this increased tax will most likely trickle down to tenants over time, making rents more unaffordable. So let's go back up here. So what this also can do to affect the overall costs for many people is it's going to raise the cost of living really for everybody by hiking taxes for businesses, which will be passed on to consumers via increased costs on everything people buy, including groceries, fuel, utilities, daycare, and healthcare. So why is that? How does that happen? So I'll give you an example. Like for the office building that I'm located in right now, there's 5 small storefronts. The building is worth over $3 million for sure. There's a restaurant, there's my real estate office, there's another pizza place. They're all small businesses that are in here, and we're on triple net leases. So that means that we're paying, our leases include the property taxes of the owners. We're paying that. This owner has owned the building for 40 years. So the property tax base that he has 40 years ago is going to be very, very different than what it is now. If that property tax base gets readjusted, a building like mine, the property taxes would go up. Our triple net lease would go up because we're going to be paying those new property taxes, making it, all of a sudden much more unaffordable to keep these businesses. So will the restaurant be able to stay in business if they're having to pay anything more, especially right now during COVID? Will they be able to keep their employees? It's a trickle-down effect, right? So it's something that, a lot of times you think that it's these big corporations that they should be paying more, and maybe they should be, but it's a trickle-down effect that's really going to affect everyone. So, keep in mind the situation here in West Hollywood. All of these small businesses are owned, on these, these little strip malls that are around that are owned by someone. The person who owns my building is not a huge corporation. They own 2 buildings, but it doesn't matter. As long as the building is worth more than $3 million, they're going to have a reassessment that happens on this. So this could really, really affect a lot of people. It could affect the cost of food. It could affect, whether people are able to stay, whether people are able to stay in business or not, or keep their employees on. So a few other points on here. Let's see. It will raise property taxes on non-commercial family farming, including barns, dairies, processing plants, and even fruit and nut trees. So even where we get our food from, there's certain farms that could be reassessed, and that will be something that absolutely affects prices and cost of living for Californians. So again, here's some of the different, parts of the actual law if you want to read through. And if anyone wants any of these slides, I'm happy to send you anything after as well. You're welcome to have them. But one of the parts, again, just stating that it exempts a reassessment for commercial and residential properties with a fair market value of $3 million or less. So if you have a home, it's not going to be reassessed, right? Single family homes. But if it's a commercial property, which means 5-unit building or more, it can be reassessed. So I know a lot of our attendees who are on this call right now are part of our multifamily meetup group, and this is absolutely something to be aware of and to spread the word on. So it's not just for businesses and big corporations. Truth about Prop 15, it will destroy Prop 13's property tax protections and raise property taxes by up to $11.5 billion a year. Prop 15 has too many flaws and will increase the cost of living for all Californians. So as you're going to see, you know, with Prop 15 and Prop 19, none of these are perfect propositions, right? They have good and bad things in them. But because they're so mixed, we're urging you to vote no, because there's just too many flaws the way it is. We're hoping that at some point these can be rewritten and changed so it does make more sense. It is not going to hurt our property owners, but as of right now, it's something that we cannot support because it will definitely hurt property owners, commercial and residential income property owners. So please keep that in mind, that there's just too many flaws to support. So moving on to Prop 21. And if anyone has questions, we can answer those at the end. I don't think I see any yet. On Prop 21. Prop 21 would repeal portions of the state's existing rental housing law, Costa-Hawkins, and open the door for extreme forms of rent control to be enacted at the local level. It's nearly identical to 2018's Prop 10, which voters rejected by nearly 20 points. So yes, if you remember last year, there was a ballot measure, Prop 10, which we all were fighting to have not passed, and it didn't pass. It was rejected by almost 20 points. It was rejected by an overwhelming number that Californians did not want Prop 10 to go through. What did happen after that, you know, we'll talk about, where yes, there is, Gavin Newsom did sign a bill to enact rent control bill for the state of California. So Prop 21 is just a real extreme version of that, and I'll explain to you why. So who's behind Prop 21? Remember Michael Weinstein? He was the same person as Prop 10. In LA, we remember him for Prop S, who wanted to put a moratorium on completely stopping any new development happening for several years. He is the head of AIDS Healthcare Foundation, which does some great work, but there's been a lot of speculation that he's using a lot of that money from AIDS Healthcare Foundation to support and put these ballot measures back on to stop development overall. So it's put on by him. He's the one who's behind it. And they were able to get enough signatures, put it on the ballot, and now here we are trying to fight it and spending money to do that again. Prop 21 will change Costa-Hawkins. This is huge, this first point. It eliminates vacancy decontrol. Okay, this is where a landlord can ask for market rent once a tenant moves out. So let's do an example. You know, say you have a rent controlled tenant right now, they're paying $1,000 a month for a 2-bedroom condo. They move out, market rent now is $3,000 a month. You're able to charge market rent of $3,000 a month or whatever someone's willing to pay to come into your unit to live in your apartment. Now, that's vacancy decontrol, where when somebody gets out, you're able to rent it at that. Prop 21 wants to eliminate that and put a cap on how much you're able to raise rent. And cities are able to actually work and change this as well, rent control boards. So the max cap that someone could raise rent would be 15%. So say you have that person who at $1,000 a month moves out and you can charge 15% more. So that's what, $150? So you can now charge $1,150 for that unit. That's market rent should be $3,000. Who gets this apartment? It's like winning the lottery. There's no stipulations that say, well, okay, if you're going to only allow them to raise rent this much and it's so much below market value, you know, you would think maybe it should be given to someone who, you know, whose income is less or something like that. But anyone could apply for this and get it, and it's basically like they're winning the lottery and getting low market rent. So it's not fair. It hurts the landlord. It's going to cause property values to drop, because obviously we know income properties are driven by the amount of income that you're getting from it, but it's also going to cause landlords to increase rents when they put properties on the market. So today at our office sales meeting, we had a really interesting conversation talking about, you know, should landlords right now be, we're trying to think of incentives to move some of the leases that we're trying to lease and get people to move in. And we were debating, you know, should landlords give a free month's rent, or, you know, a gift card somewhere or something to get them to move in, or should they just lower the rent? Well, the last thing we want to do right now is to lower the rent, especially if this happens, because if there's no vacancy decontrol later, that lower rent, it's going to take you forever to recoup it. So if you decided to lower the rent a couple $100, it may take you, you know, a long time to recoup that rent later. It's better to give them some other type of incentive where you keep the rent at a higher number, but you give them some incentive to come in, like a half a month's free rent, or, you know, a gift card for cable services, or, you know, something like that. So it's causing landlords already to think about keeping rents high, when normally they would say, oh, you know what, let's just lower the rent and charge them less. And that's what most landlords do. But in this case now, landlords are considering keeping the rents higher and doing everything they can to ask for as high of a rent as they can. Because if vacancy decontrol goes away, this is going to be a huge issue. Are single family homes exempt from Prop 21? Well, not really. So Prop 21 would allow for extreme forms of rent control to be applied to single family homes and condos. How? Anyone who holds title for their home in a family trust or partnership or the like would be subject to permanent price caps when renting their home. So if you own a condo, your own condo or your own home, and you have it in a trust, which all my clients do, it's the smart way to hold title, and that's what I encourage my clients to do, is to do it that way. It would fall under this rent control rule under Prop 21. So roughly 1/3 of all homes are held in a trust. This would affect 1/3 of all single family homes. So they may say that no, it doesn't affect single family homes, but yes, it does. If your property is in a trust or a partnership, you are going to be up for this. Additionally, if you own more than 2 properties and it's just in your name, you'll also be held up to Prop 21's rules. So we don't want that to happen. Doesn't California already have rent control? Yes. Our governor this year in January signed Assembly Bill 1482, which became law, and basically ensures that renters will not face extreme rent hikes or be unfairly evicted from their homes. The new law also provides stability for property owners, ensuring the rental housing supply is not diminished and that housing continues to be built. So what this new rent control law does, and by the way, if you want to learn more about how the state rent control law goes into play with our local city rent control laws and who trumps who, we do have another video on our YouTube session that you can go in, just search The Collective Realty on YouTube, and you'll be able to find our video on this. We have an amazing attorney talking about all the nuances of the state's rent control law. So that we just did that about a month ago. So AB 1482 caps annual rent increases at 5% plus CPI. Okay, it exempts single family homes and condos, which is great, and it maintains vacancy decontrol. So again, that's a real big one that I know CAR worked really hard to make sure that AB 1482 still allowed for vacancy decontrol. It still allows you, when you have a vacancy, to list your property at whatever price you feel like you can get for that unit, so pure market value. Prop 21 would eliminate that. It would make our housing crisis worse. Independent academic experts agree that policies like Prop 21 discourage new construction and reduce availability of affordable and middle-class housing, driving up rents for many Californians. We talked about a couple reasons why we think rents will go up, but there's many more. You know, again, 2/3 of California landlords are small mom and pop operations. And after COVID, with any more of these restrictions, it could absolutely be what puts them out of business. Now is not the right time for Prop 21. We need to do whatever we can to fight this. You know, we know through rent control, when there is extreme rent control, property values go down, and we know why that is, because you're getting less rents. This could, you know, obviously result in a property tax loss over $500 million annually for our state, which is not something we need right now at this time. It's just not the right thing to do. It's too extreme. So I hope that was clear. I talked kind of quick. I'm not a complete expert on these propositions, but I think enough to at least get the message out, and I would encourage you to read the measures on your own and make decisions. But let's see, do I have any questions going on right now? I just saw something pop up. Oh, Sabrina, thank you for breaking it down so well. Thank you for understanding what I was trying to get through. Okay, cool. If anyone has questions again, just please let us know. But now I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Christy from CAR to talk about good news, this ballot measure that I'm very excited about. It's going to help so many people. It's going to free up many, many transactions. It's going to allow a lot of my clients to be able to move closer to their family. If this passes, they're just not able to move right now, because you'll see why. So Christy, let's take it away, and then we can get more into Q&A.
Hi, everybody, and thank you, Anthony. Again, I'm Christy. I'm on the government affairs team here at CAR. I want to just reiterate what Anthony was saying about 15 and 21, that CAR is opposed to both. We just think, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic, that they would be too burdensome on small businesses and developers and rental property owners right now. So to get started on our sponsored bill proposition, we have the Home Protection for Seniors Severely Disabled, Families of Victims and Victims of Wildfire and Natural Disaster Act. So kind of a tongue twister there, so I like to just say Prop 19. Anthony, I don't have share screen access, I think, to flip. If you want to flip, that's fine, or I can take over too.
Let's see, if I make you a host now, you should be able to no, I think it's, I don't know if you can flip. I'll flip for you.
No problem. Thank you. Okay, so this is a little bit about Proposition 13, which is existing law. So currently, there are only 4 reasons your tax rate could get reassessed, and it's change of ownership, a completed new construction, or decline in value.
Yeah, so keep that in mind too, guys. If property values do go down, you are able to talk to the county assessor to get your property reevaluated to pay lower property taxes. Scrolling so fast.
No problem. I will just go over this real quickly too. So currently, as current law stands, seniors 55 and over may transfer their tax rate. There's only 10 counties in California that can do that, which are listed below. And it must be of equal or lesser value. So that's what is current law in California.
Yeah, and this has been a huge issue for a lot of my clients who are wanting to move to transfer their property tax base. You know, if they were to buy a condo that was $600,000 and they sold theirs for $550,000, they would not be able to transfer their property tax base. It has to be equal or less value. Also, another thing we've come across with the one-time only is that if someone's getting a divorce, only one person can use that transfer of the property tax base. So it's kind of up to the attorney and how they want to settle it, but only one person's able to transfer that property tax base. So that becomes an issue when it's only one time. So again, Prop 19 is going to give us 3 times.
So yes, Prop 19 there are two sides of the coin here. There is the tax-based portability, which we just spoke about with expanding Proposition 13 in current law. And then there is the intergenerational transfer reforms, which if you want to flip, I'll talk about those two in the next. So basically what we are proposing on the ballot is the portability to be expanded. So what we want to do is open up the option for any county in California to be able to port your tax rate, not just senior citizens. It's going to be victims of wildfire or severely disabled. So as long as you fall into those two categories, you can move to anywhere in California. You can port your tax rate if it's equal or higher value of a home now. So let's say you bought your home 30, 40 years ago and you cannot afford the current market value of what California is with housing, you can now move and not worry too much about a very large tax bill at the end of the year. So if your house unfortunately burns down, you know, $500,000 home, but your family's close to Santa Monica and there's only $1.5 million around there, you will be able to port that $500,000 and you just pay the difference. And you can now do it up to 3 times instead of that 1 time. So we think this is great because, you know, divorces happen. I mentioned this to Anthony previously, but you know, if you move and your house is haunted, you can port your tax rate and move again. So we're pretty excited about that.
Oh, you didn't know we have the ghost-free realtor in our house? She makes sure that when she sells your house ghost-free. This is a real thing.
They have to disclose it for a reason, right?
We're in California.
Yeah, exactly. So the intergenerational transfer is going to be a little bit different of what current law is now. And we actually came up with an agreement, a bipartisan agreement with the legislature to include this part of the proposition in so that the portability, the tax rate part would be accessible for all. In current law, a parent or grandparent can pass down all of their properties to their child or grandchild and their tax rate. So nothing gets reassessed. In 2017, the Legislative Analyst's Office, LAO, did a study on how much money California was losing actually because of the intergenerational transfer. There have been talks the past 2 years of them proposing legislation that would remove the IG transfer completely. This is when CAR stepped in and said, okay, this is not ideal. So we need to kind of come to the table here and figure out what we can do to make everybody happy. And this is where proposition kind of came in. If you want to flip to the next slide, I will show you our agreement that we made with the legislature. Yep. So we came to the table and we said that we wanted to propose a ballot that would protect the primary residence up to $1 million of an inherited tax rate. But everything else will get reassessed at the current market value. So if your child inherits 3 properties, one of them that becomes their primary residence, they can keep that tax rate and then they're going to have to pay the current market value on the other 2. Now, what we did to kind of come to that agreement with the legislature was we dedicated the revenue that we would be making on those reassessed rates, so on that second or third property, to specific funds in the state. So we think this is the best case scenario because rather than lose it completely, we are coming to a bipartisan agreement and at least we have control of allocating where that fund is going. So here on the slide, yep, Anthony's got the little cursor if you guys can see. We have the Family Farm Benefit, the California Fire Response Fund, and then the offsets for the county revenue protection. So originally with this side-by-side comparison, our old ballot initiative was the Family Home Protection and Fairness Act. And the agreement that we made with the legislature, which is on the ballot in November, is Proposition 19. So you can see we actually took out the split roll, we took out the business commercial reassessment in there, and we allocated the funds allocated the revenue to these certain funds. So again, we're feeling very confident about it, and we believe it's going to be a very good bipartisan agreement. Yeah, just to reemphasize, we're going to expand the tax portability. We're going to help limit those property tax increases for seniors now, severely disabled family and victims of wildfire. We're going to be able to protect the transfer of family homes to children and grandchildren on that primary residence. And by doing so, we can support fire and emergency responses. provide that tax relief that is needed for farms, school districts, counties, emergency services. Just talk a little bit about polling. If you're interested, we are seeing still positive polling since the ballot was announced. And if you want to flip to the next slide too, I will also send this PowerPoint around so you can take a look more in depth if you'd like to. We are seeing broad support across the state, because of this agreement. We again have bipartisan support on both parties. We are seeing industries like agriculture support this, the California Professional Firefighters, the Forestry Association, schools, cities, and counties think this is going to be a great way to garner revenue and but also protect what we can with the intergenerational transfer. And that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is our ad. I'm not going to play it right now for time's sake. We'll send this around, and if you want to check out our TV ad and what we've been playing in California, feel free.
Great, great, great.
No problem.
All right, thank you so much. Does anyone have any questions? We have an amazing resource here in Christy that knows a lot more than I do. So if anyone has any questions, now is a great time to ask. Anyone? Okay.
Great, I sold you all. Thank you so much for your support.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. That was like really, really great. I am, what am I doing? Thank you guys so much for being here today. I'm just going to put a slide back just to remind you about all of our propositions that we're going for. No on 15, yes on 19, no on 21. If you're in West Hollywood, please do what you can to support Larry Block. That would be amazing. And again, at the Collective, we are so passionate about helping you build wealth through real estate, whether you're a first-time home buyer, an investor, someone who's selling, looking for a lease until you're able to purchase. Check out our videos on YouTube. We have so many great videos that we're starting to put on there now. We had an amazing speaker talking about ADUs and all the new laws around ADUs. If you own a single family home, pretty much everyone can put an ADU on their lot. And we'll describe how you can do that and have a great resource of someone who could actually come to your property and let you know how that works. We had an attorney talk about the new state rent control rules and how that's working. We always have new relevant topics, so please check that out and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search The Collective Realty. You can follow us on Facebook as well. And thank you guys again for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Vote soon. Vote, what do they say? Vote early. Don't vote often. I mean, that's not right. But vote. All right, guys. Have a great afternoon. Thanks for joining us.